Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to do a review of a little game called Aerion by Shadi Torbeys. Now, this is part of the Oniverse of games that Shadi Torbeys puts out. They are specifically designed to be solo experiences, and each one of them has as its trademark signature a base game followed by a plethora of expansions in each one. Usually at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different expansions that you can mix and match once you've mastered or feel like you'd like to move on from the base game. Now, all of the games have some sort of thematic presence. We initially Aerion, which is about dreams and doors. There's Sylveon, there's Nautilion, there's others. It'll come to me. But this is his latest work, and it's called Aerion. In this game, you are building ships, airships, airships. And the idea is that in each of the ships, you have 3 components you need to put together in order to be able to finish making that ship. You have a variety of cards that you're going to use to collect to make that happen, but more importantly, you're going to use a dice rolling Yahtzee-like game style in this one. In each game, he has some sort of different mode. For example, Aerion is a lot of card shuffling. Shuffle, 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 shuffle. Nautilion, you have you're building a little path of spaces and jumping over the spaces. Each one, there's a different mechanic in each one that just kind of sets it up differently. And each one is unique and, in my opinion, just clever as heck. So let's take a look at Aerion and see what it's all about.
Excellent. Let us begin the unboxing of Aerion, the latest in Shadi Torbeys collections. The real Slim Shady? I'm not going to go there. Alright, we have Clouds, the usual Cloud production. We have the Book of Rules, because all of his games follow that. We have the airships, and these are the airships you're going to be attempting to build. They're all very unique and very, so typical of the art style of the Omniverse. Well-versed in verse. Alright, we have these. As you build these, you will flip them over. They'll start with the backside tells you kind of what materials, crew are necessary to build them, and then the front is the glorious ship in all its shining glory. Then you always have one of these guys. He's angry. He's in one of the expansions. You have dice, very small dice. Like the coloring though. You have these tokens that are basically freebies, so you don't have to play with them if you want to play the harder mode, but otherwise you get 3 sort of re-roll chances, or 3 chances to change a die to any other die. These are kind of a way to make it easier to finish or complete the game. Then you have wealth of expansions. This is the actual expansion deck. These are all of the different expansions you can throw into this game, mix and match as you choose. The actual core of the cards themselves are here. These are the actual cards, and you'll see behind them that they've got, you'll notice the matching corresponding. That icon will match these kind of crew members, and then you've got designs for the ships that match the actual ships. You've got resource materials, and then of course these special cards that give you kind of a boost, or give you one of several different options that can help you if you're sort of in a bind. That's really it. So I'm going to set it up, and then we'll show a little bit of gameplay run through. At its heart, the game is actually really simple. We're going to play the base level mode, which doesn't have any of the expansions, but I assure you the expansions do not disappoint. But what we're doing is, we have 6 piles, and each of these 6 piles has a set of cards in them. What types of cards are in them is always listed on the back. This will help you understand which of the piles you need to exhaust in order to get the right cards to be able to build the ships. You have your 6 ships there. You'll notice each one has the crew member, the element, the materials, and the blueprint. So blueprints, materials, and the crew that are going to be needed in order to complete these ships. Now we are set and ready to go, so we're going to begin by moving our mangoes away, because mangoes are scary, and we roll the dice. Think Yahtzee. Think Yahtzee. So right now I have a 4, a 5, I have 2 3s, 2 5s, a 4, and a 6. The most I can get from that is 2 pairs. Now you'll notice on these cards the letters. The letters are will actually map to the of a kinds and full house, etc. For example, 3 of a kind of any number would grant us this design, this blueprint for that type of ship. Right now we have 2 pair, full house, straight, 4 of a kind, and then the special one, which is 3 pairs or 2 triples. They go generally from easiest to obtain to hardest to obtain, but you'll notice that in different piles you'll find different cards, and so you are going to need to, for example, in order to get any of the gelatinous crew members here, as opposed to the prickly, pointy-eared ones, you're going to have to go get some better combos. For now, we have 2 pair, and what does 2 pair get us? It gets us this, but the problem is that we don't have any place to put it. Now, you're going to have to imagine, if you will, that in the game there are 2 workshops. Workshop, reserve, and pulpit. And unfortunately, you can each workshop can basically be building one of the 2, like up to 2 types of ships. So imagine, I really wish they had at least some sort of like thing. I might even think of making one just to kind of make it easier to visualize when I'm playing. But you can have a workshop, a reserve, and a pulpit. A pulpit is where books go. These book cards actually give you oomph benefits, kind of like they do one of 3 things. You can re-roll when they're in your pulpit. You can use them to re-roll 3 times, which is kind of handy because you don't have to exhaust cards. You can put an element card in reserve, so if you had one here and you're like, oh, I really want a crew member but I don't have a place for it yet, you can reserve up to 1 card. And you can also take 2 discarded cards and put them back. That'll make sense once we go through it. For now, we have this, and this is not really going to help us much because we have no place to put it. One of the drawbacks is that it's not just collecting the blueprint, the material, and the crew. The crew cannot be added to the workshop until you have a blueprint and materials. Until you build the ship, the crew ain't going to come. But if you build it, they will come. Haha, points if you know that old reference. So anyway, so now the 2 pair don't really help us much, so we got to find something else. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, say, this one, and we're going to discard it, and that will let us re-roll. So I want to re-roll these 2 again. Look at that. Now we have a full house. And look, we just got rid of the card with the full house. Yay. Sigh. Not helpful. All right. This is what we really need. But we do have 3 of a kind, and 3 of a kind is going to help us, see? We're going to go ahead and start on our workshop this spaceship. And this spaceship requires the clam chowder bread bowl material. And it also requires a little gelatinous crew member fella. He's fuzzy and furry. He's not pointy and sharp-like. So we're done. We did our job. Now we're going to flip these over. These decks are exhausted, so once you don't have any more moves, you lose. So you don't want to discard too frivolously, but you do want to keep going on. So now we're going to look for bread bowl resource. We have none of that, and crew members. We don't have anything that's going to help us except this crew member, but we can't use him until we get that particular resource. And where are those resources found? In this deck or that deck? So we might want to try and cycle through that deck so that we can complete this airship. Now we're going to roll again. Actually, I think I rolled only 5 of them. Let's roll again. Look at, whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. You don't get anything for 6 of a kind? Bummer. Alright, so 4 of a kind gives us that. Doesn't that stink? That would have been perfect. But it still gives us 5 of a kind, which gives us this, because you can still use, 3 4s and 2 4s still count. So we're going to take that and put it into our pulpit, and we can use that later on. More books. Buying books, and all they do is eat the pages. Alright. 4, 4, 6, 6, 5, 2. So when our double, look at that. We have a double, but that's not really thrilling for us. So we're going to go ahead and ditch this and re-roll. What we'd like to do, a straight wouldn't help us, but yeah, we need to just cycle through. So let's, I'm going to use up my card here, and that's going to get discarded. These never come back, but the others can, and just, I get to re-roll up to 3 times. What I'd really like to do is get that other pattern, because that would help me out. And so I need 2 sets of, so re-roll once, oh good. So now I have 3 sets of 2. It also is 4 of a kind, so if I could take that, I would, but I don't want to. And then, yeah, two pairs, because that. So we've got that. So now we've got yet another. Now our workshops are full. We have 2 workshops going, and that's all we can do. Until we get these suckers done, we have our work cut out for us. Still looking for the bread bowl. And this one, we need the material here. This material needs to go here, and then we need the pointy crew. So we got some motion here. Now we're gonna roll again. 2, 2, 2, 3. No, 2. Was that 2? I was gonna say that was 2. 3, 3, 4. So that's a full house. Do I want the full house? Do I want the 3 of a kind? I want the 3 of a kind. You know why? Because now all we need to do is snag that crew member, and we have completed that ship. And then we're 1/5 of the way to victory. So now let's try it again. Can we get 2 pairs? We've got 1. And no, we don't. Now I could waste a card away, but I'm going to do something. In the easy game, 3 times during the game, you can use one of these to make a die be whatever you want it to be. And that's simple. I'm just going to make 2. Let's make that a 6. Why not? Let's have some fun. Now we have 2 pairs. Now we have this, and look, we have completed our first ship. Doom, doom, doom. Yay! So we go over here and find that ship. I believe it's this one, and we flip it over. It's done. We now have that ship done and 5 to go. These get discarded. And then we roll on and we keep going. And we're going to do this over and over and over, trying to find the blueprints, the materials, and the crew to be able to get all 6 of those ships built. If we do it before we exhaust all the cards, then we win. If we don't, then we lose. It's that simple. All right, let's get into my thoughts on Aerion.
Okay, let's talk about Onirim. I'm kidding. Let's talk about Aerion. When I started playing Aerion the first several games, I thought it was going to probably be at the top of my list of all of the Oniverse games. I've cooled down a little bit on it, but not too much after playing a little bit more. What I like about it, well, I like the dice mechanic. I like the Yahtzee kind of mechanic. I would say that it's not truly like a Yahtzee mechanic where you get 3 rolls and you do your best of them. You get 1 roll. You're granted 1 roll, and after that it's up to you to decide what other exhaustible resources you're going to use to try to steer, rearrange, reconfigure to get the type of dice you want to be able to grab the cards you need. I do think it's relatively easy for most of them to get the kind of cards you want, but it's more interesting to think about the management of the decks of cards themselves, and thinking about how you're going to get the plans, the resources, what order you're going to get them. It's very determined by the shuffle. Like, you could have a bad initial shuffle where you have a lot of cards that you can't use right away, and then you start having to feel like you have to feed those through, but it then kind of rebalances out later, because as you decide, go through the, discard to get the cards you want in the different decks, it starts to kind of feel out. It seems like it sort of self-balances, and I do like that. It does mean that after the first few games, you're going to want to use an expansion pack or 2 to kind of add a little bit of pizzazz, because it becomes relatively, not easy per se, but it does become a lot more focused in being able to get what you want done, to get what you need, and win the game in the initial base game. Or the first couple of games I was dizzying, just randomly doing it, and that was a failure. But after that, you start getting better and better about going, no, I need to really focus on this deck if to get through these cards to get to the right card I want to be able to buy, and then you have to be at the mercy of the dice. But then you've got opportunities with the dice, the extra Books will give you opportunities as well, and being able to only store one is also kind of a nice touch, because everything, it becomes an excruciating choice. It becomes a timing choice. Do I really want to use this now? What if I run into a situation later? Do I use my butterfly now, my sort of, get out of a dead end card per se free? I do like that. As I went through the game, there is kind of a nice pace. It's real easy to teach others. Other than, you have to really, the cards themselves have A, B, C, D, E, and you have to go like, just think of those as numbers, not letters. Don't worry about it, and then it becomes second nature. I did find myself, like I said, it became something that I felt like I probably would definitely never play without one or two of the expansions, which I didn't show you, but I could. But hey, I'm a base kind of guy. So that's what I liked. What I didn't like, not much. As I think I mentioned in the playthrough, I would have loved to have had some sort of just quick pull-out card that would actually show you the workshops and the pulpit and all that, just so that it was easier to kind of keep together. But I mean, I'm one player. I don't have to teach anybody but myself when it's a solo game. But I might end up making one just to kind of have it, because I do think that would be a nice way to kind of just like put everything together. But as far as long-term value, I think this is still not as good as some others for my playing style. I think Onirim still is one that I go back to and just really enjoy the snot out of. But I definitely would put it middle of the pack. Either way, you can't go wrong. I mean, having this whole collection has been just a joy. That it's such a bizarre and lovely art style that you're looking at these things and they're just kind of wacky and zany creations from a dream world. It's kind of how I felt when I watched Howl's Moving Castle for the first time. Like, whoa, this is just crazy, zany, weird. I love it. So Aerion is a game I would recommend. I mean, if you can find it, pick it up, because these games do not seem to last long before they sell out in my experience. But definitely give it a whirl. If you liked any of his other stuff, you're probably not going to find too much to be disappointed in here. Give it a shot, and Aerion, my wayward sons, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.